And welcome back to On the Record. In studio, we have Kahsennahawe, Sky Deer. Did I say it right?
Good job, yes.
All right. I know that it's a little tongue twister for me. So welcome back and congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
You were running for elections last time and now you're chief.
Mm-hmm.
How's that going for you?
Well, right now it's busy. In the beginning, it was more of a transitioning process, if you would.
Mm-hmm.
Getting familiar with all the faces and people I'm going to be working with. Portfolios weren't assigned until August, so now that they are assigned and I have a full plate, I've been pretty busy.
Really? Is it what you expected?
It is.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of people see it, I was like, well, I'm going in, what's going to happen? But I guess if you have a little bit of insight in how the operations are, but your portfolios, did you get anything that you were hoping for?
Everything I wanted.
Really?
Like the spoiled kid at Christmas. Yes!
Well, that's good.
No, yeah, and I guess the directive I was taking was I kind of wanted them to, tie into one another, that they would overlap. And so, of course, I wanted to, in my campaign early on, I expressed wanting to work with the youth. So now the youth forum is up and running. We've had a couple of events so far with that. Bonfire. We're actually going to be having another one on the 13th while the weather is permitting, before winter gets here. Education. I'm on the Combined Schools Committee board as a liaison to the MCK, and we all know with the funding cuts what's going on there. So there's going to be a general assembly for all of the parents for the kids who go to school in the community. That's going to be on October 19th, 6:30 at Cattery. So that's one of the things coming up. And my main baby right now is the community decision-making process.
I know you talked about that, and I was like, to me, it's a tough thing, the Justice Act and that, and I think that I hope you just don't rush in, and I've said this before. I hope they don't rush in to trying to fast track that, because it's so important.
I know.
Because we keep getting caught into circumstances right now. How is it going?
Well, to me, I think the community needs something like this where, doesn't matter what faction you come from or, what age group, it's for the community and it's for everybody to just start coming together and start discussing our issues. And one of the main thing right now is the state of justice in Kahnawake. Once the justices of the peace that we currently have now can no longer perform their duties, they retire. There's no more court of Kahnawake, and everything is going to have to be heard on the outside.
So what are some of the things that they're looking at putting into place?
At this point, it's a clean slate. We want to, gauge the community and see what they want. It could be, at this point, anything. When we go to the community on the 30th and ask for a mandate to begin a Justice Act for Kahnawake, we want to hear what the community has to say. If they want to base it on something that's already there, they want to tear it apart and then, go that way, or if they want to just start from scratch.
Yeah, I know. Maybe it's not fair to you, but to ask you this next question. But setting up a Justice Act is one thing, and having the community have some decision making in how it's going to go. But normally we don't have a problem in our justice system until it affects somebody that doesn't like what the outcome is, and it takes it on the outside. Jurisdiction is the big thing, and I guess having it recognized. How are we trying to work around that? If you're a little up to.
Well, that's what the political aspect of it is, that if the people, the will of the people in Kahnawake say that this is what we have created and put together to, govern our people, if you would, in terms of a justice system, then that's what we have to follow. And we're going to fight for it on the outside to make sure that Quebec, Canada, and other jurisdictions also recognize, that that's what we're doing here. So there was also what was brought up is people will say, well, who's going to be the one making judgment, or something to that effect. And I brought up the fact that I was just at the Iroquois caucus, and some of the other chiefs over there were discussing about what their state of justice is like, and maybe what we could do is traveling tribunals, so potentially people from other communities could come here to hear the cases, so there wouldn't be that bias or nepotism or favoritism, if you would.
Yeah, and I think that's a good idea. When we first, I guess when the court system first started, we sort of had that. We had two justices of the peace from, it was us in it, you know, Mitchell and Sharrow before, you know, in the 70s. So that worked then, you know. Maybe it can work now, and all the communities could benefit. And I think that maybe that could be a good solution there. So I hope that, you know, that's a good track to follow. So you're reading. I mean, I know that you're used to reading by being, you know, being out of the community, going to school. But how is all the books that you have to read when you're first starting?
Well, to be honest, there wasn't really much. Like I said, because I guess the portfolios weren't really assigned and getting caught up. The council agenda items on Mondays have been relatively quiet, if you would. So there hasn't been much reading. But, you know, I keep up with everything that, in my opinions, meetings, everything, I'm pretty much on point, so.
When you first walk in the door, they must have to give you an orientation process. How did that go?
There was a lengthy orientation process. It actually took a month. The first 2 weeks, I want to say, was basically OCC, which is the Office of the Council of Chiefs, and all the different departments there. And then the next 2 weeks was administration, and then we even went into like the other organizations. We had presentations by Ed Center, by the hospital, KSCS. So just to get familiar with the whole umbrella and all the stakeholders and people involved, if you would. So,
how did you think, or how do you feel about how the election ended up? You know, with Jesse and you know, Gagna's situation, and then a by-election. It's, you know, how can we fix that in the future?
Well, I hope that like I said, the community decision-making process model, the first thing that's going into it is going to be the Justice Act, because it's, at this point, we have something in place, but we know it's not going to be there forever. So we need to start working on putting, you know, getting something off the ground to replace it if and when that time comes. In terms of election law, this is also scheduled to go into the community decision-making process. I believe it's 4th on the list, so hopefully it's going to be resolved before the next election. And I'm going to be honest, I thought it was, you know, unfortunate circumstances. I thought Gagna Dio was a you know, good candidate and speaker and a good education background. I felt like he's still at this point has a lot to offer to his community. But you know that the law is written the way the law is written, and I know it's interpretation and there's a gray area, and I know it caused a lot of divide within the community. So again, it just shows that the people need to come together and fix the problems that we collectively face in the community, and one of them being the election law.
And I think that, like I said, if the efforts put in with the Justice Act and that, maybe in the future we won't have to deal with the same circumstances. Everybody's fingers are crossed, because, you know, it's been, you know, several years now and we're still stuck in the same thing, and every election we never seem to get out of it.
Right.
So maybe it is because of the Justice Act. I guess only time will tell.
Well, it's hard too, because if you have MCK as the only people fixing the way the election law is, then that's biased in itself, because it's like, okay, we're writing it so that it kind of benefits us, if you would, you know, so that this way when you have more community input, then it's fair, you know.